In this video, we are going talking about courage to be the slap, more like the courage to be free and happy. And we're going to be using principles from the Freudian Psychology as presented in the book, The Courage to be the Slap. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Yeah, it's been a while and it was intentional. I know I've been preaching consistency, but I took some time off to actually reflect on my journey so far and bring you even more valuable content. And if you're new in this channel, my name is Amaka. I'm a dentist who started the channel for the love of accountability and consistency. I'm all about living an authentic life and a genuinely happy life. And also on this channel, we explore other strategies, other life strategies through the lenses of books, my personal experiences and observations. And today I'm going to be sharing my key takeaways from the book The Courage to be Disliked. Yeah, this book, The Courage to be Disliked, by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Goga. I think they are Japanese. The Adlerian principles as presented by the authors was such a breath of fresh air from the Freudian principle that has to do with our past, that almost all the trauma that we're experiencing, our behaviors are influenced by what we experience as children. You know, sometimes I tend to cringe a bit when I hear that the actions that adults take as a result of what they experience in their childhood. I'm like, you have a choice. So this is a breath of fresh air. I'm not saying that, yeah, some of those things don't exist, and that's why we are looking at psychology from another perspective. In this case, not the Freudian perspective that has been the mainstay of psychology for a long time. Let's look at it with a fresh insight. The first insight I got from this is teleology rather than etiology explains our actions or inactions. And in this case, he gave an example that anger is a choice we make to achieve a goal. Teleology rather than etiology explains our actions or inactions. Now, I will have to explain. So etiology, as we know, is explaining a phenomena in terms of the cause of that particular thing. So when we are talking about etiology, Freudian psychology comes to mind. They explain our actions as adults based on what we experience in childhood. Meanwhile, teleology actually explains, I'll read the dictionary meaning of teleology. So it says it explains a phenomena or an action in terms of the purpose they serve rather than the cause by which they arise. So I would explain. So in this book, they give an example of anger. That do we get angry because someone does something to make us angry, or we get angry because we're trying to achieve a purpose? I mean, teleology will ask, what is the purpose of this expression? While etiology will ask, what caused this expression, in this case, anger. So he gave an example of a coffee being spilled on the clothes on or your white shirt in a coffee shop, and then you get angry, you snap at the person. Why? I mean, you know, the snap is said to be caused by the person spilling this coffee on your shirt. That's a normal thinking. But in teleology, they believe that we actually expressed anger because we have a goal in mind. I mean, they believe that we could have as well said it subtly in terms of, oh, I know this was a mistake, but how can I handle this? Or why do this? But then we have to burst out and express it in anger. So it gave the explanation that our anger is under our control and we have the choice to choose. But when we choose anger, it's either because we want to, you know, exercise our control or our having the upper hand in that particular situation. He even further explained that if a child perhaps does something to make a parent, a mother, angry, the parent is going to be angry, express the anger by shouting. And if the parent gets a phone call, perhaps a work phone call, the same parent is going to switch to talking softly to a fellow worker, and afterwards switch back to the anger mode. So it's he believes that our anger mood is actually a sign of authoritativeness. Is a goal to achieve our authoritativeness over whoever we are being angry at. And I also thought about this. If tea was spilled on my clothes by someone I respect, who do I respect? Can I say Jesus Christ? Maybe I was living in the time of Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ, I adore him. And then he spills a tea on my, I may say, oh Lord, I know that this is a mistake. No problem. I'm going to just change my shirt. But if it were to be perhaps a child, we are going to react differently. So in one case, we have authority over the person. In the other case, we admire this person. And then the actions are different. And this also happens in relationship. Imagine when you are in love with someone, you do not see the flaws of the person. And then when you finally fall out of love, is there anything like falling out of love? Let's say the emotions, the sentiments are not there any longer. You then choose, because it's a choice. You then start seeing the flaws. So initially you chose, whether subconsciously or consciously, you chose to ignore the flaws. But afterwards, when the sentiments were no more there, you choose to see the flaws. Something like that. Yeah, that's teleology rather than etiology, explaining our actions or inactions. The second takeaway, living in the now. So living in the now means having the courage to disregard the past. That's what we refer to as trauma or even our successes, and also to disregard the future, but focus on the present. I don't know how easy it is because the memories are stronger when it is a traumatic experience. That is what psychology and neuroscience tells us. So ignoring the past is not going to be possible, but I think disconnecting it from affecting what we are experiencing in the present is what I think is practicable in this case. I mean, we cannot decide to get stuck in being our worst self because our past has dictated that this is what, I mean, according to the Freudian principle, because of the trauma you experienced in the past, you're going to be this way. Who says you cannot change? Freudian Psychology actually advocates that it is not a causative thing that the past should affect the present. We should rather focus on the present and live the present in an earnest and conscientious manner, in such a way that that is what really matters at that time. Imagine recording this video, and at the time I'm recording this video, I'm not thinking about the future or the past. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just focused earnestly on recording this video. That is what Freudian Psychology advocates. And in this sense, it's saying that we should let the focus be on the present. Imagine having a focus light when everywhere is dark. Maybe to your left, to your right to your front is the future, and to the back is the past. And if you have to dim the light of the past and dim the light of the future, you have the focus light more focused on you. You have the light shine on the present. I mean, it's going to be a very bright now because there is nothing distracting you. I mean, every eye will be on you. But when you try to, put on a little bit of light in the past and put on a little bit of light it's going to suddenly dim the light of the focus. The focus light is no more going to be on the now, which is you, and you're going to be distracted. So the now is not going to be as enjoyable as it would have been if you were focused on it. The trauma of the past or the bad memories of the past are going to definitely dilute some of the things that you're trying to take away from the now. So it's trying to say that what matters really is to live every moment in an earnest and conscientious manner, in the sense that we are not compromising on our now because of what we experienced in the past, and we are not compromising on our now because of what we are thinking about the future. Now that brings me to the third one, focusing on one life's task. Now it says that individual psychology of focusing on one's life task, having the courage to be free from focusing on your life task, embodying you by not focusing on the task of others. I will explain. So it says that each individual have things that are called life tasks, and those are things that are within your control. Those are the things that only you can control. For instance, putting effort into your craft to make sure that you have the best output. Those are within your control. Let's take, for instance, the YouTube channel. You open a YouTube channel, you are honing your craft. That is absolutely within your control. That is your task. In terms of making a YouTube channel, that is your task. But in terms of the comments, the views, and all of that, that is not your task. You're not supposed to concern yourself with those things that you cannot control. In fact, the recipe for getting worried is concerning yourself with things that you cannot control. Imagine you being alive and thinking about things that you cannot control, like inevitable things like death in the future. You are so much engrossed that, oh, you mean one day I'm going to die? I'm going to leave all these things. What you're supposed to concentrate on, you don't have control over when, how, and why death is going to occur. What you have control over is rather to live a good life, to live a good life now. You're not to be worried so much about the future because everyone is going to die at some point. But if you get overly worried about it, you're not going to enjoy the now. So that is bringing us back to living in the now. But in this case, we are just focusing on the things we can control, which is our life task. So people looking at you in a particular way is their own, we say, cup of tea, is their own task. It is not your task. The way people perceive you is not your task. What your task is to represent yourself in the best light that you want to, that you feel comfortable with. It doesn't matter that people don't perceive you the way that you would have loved them to perceive you. In fact, it's almost given that some people are going to criticize you no matter what you do. So why not just be yourself? So the fourth one is having a compass. So I know that we want to be ourselves. This book is about being happy, being free, being yourself, being your authentic self. How about your authentic self is evil? So this book also advocates that we should have a compass. Even though we want to be our authentic self, we want to be ourselves, we don't want to care about what other people think about it because that's not our task. We should also have a compass that directs our action, that also tells us when we are overstepping. So, and this compass is contribution to others. It's more like, first, do no harm. Do no harm. Let your action do good to another person. Let your action be contributory to the community that we find ourselves, to the world that we find ourselves. So yes, if I am perhaps being myself by making a YouTube channel, for instance, is it contributing to other people? Yes, because I'm sharing some of the insights I gained from a book. So yes, that ticked that compass. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to try and do it. I'm going to hone my skill. I'm going to do it irrespective of some backlashes I'm going to get, because I've already examined it by the compass that has been presented by the Adlerian principle. Of course, an added compass I use is it glorifying God? I feel like that is also a strong compass. If you have a belief, if you have someone that if you're religious, if you're a spiritual person and you have a relationship with God, you can also pass it through the compass of your spirituality. Does this align with my spirituality? I know that I really want to do this. This align with my spirituality. This is another compass to use. Of course, that's my own added compass. One thing about the Adlerian compass of contribution to others is that is also where one of the feeling of worth comes from. For instance, I would ask you this question. When you see a $20 bill, the value in the $20 bill, would it be the 20 that is written on it or the paper that it is made of? Yes, those things have significance, but the main value of a $20 bill is what goods and services it can buy. If, for instance, there are no goods and services that are $20 bill, then the $20 bill at that moment doesn't worth anything. If, for instance, we ban fiat money and we say that we are no longer going to be using paper money for anything, it becomes valueless. It doesn't have the value that was attributed to it because it can't get those services. So in other words, Adlerian principle is saying that to find our worth in the world, we can measure it by the level of contribution we are making. So, for instance, if you are not making any contribution, you are just basically causing more harm than good, you're probably not worth so much in the world. If you are a philanthropist, you're giving money to people, you're probably worth more to the world because you're making a higher contribution to the world. But that doesn't mean that our only contribution should be financial. Our contribution could be time, it could be it could be sharing our knowledge. It could be things like developing ourselves so that we wouldn't be a nuisance in the society. It could even be just taking care of ourselves so that we can be healthy and alive. The question then arises, so for the sick people on a sick bed that can't even lift a pin, or old people, elderly individuals that can't lift a pin, are they then worthless? No. The worth of an individual is beyond just what they contribute, in terms of services or material things. It's also in the being. Being alive. Imagine being alive in itself is a contribution to probably your family members who are happy that you're alive. Imagine being dead tomorrow. Imagine what agony is going to cost the people around you and your family and friends. There is worth in the being, and there's also worth in the act. So increasing our worth would entail trying to contribute to the society in a meaningful way, or at least do less harm and do more good. Yeah. The next one is happiness is a feeling of contribution. Yeah, so we are talking about happiness, how to be happy, how to be free. Yes, how to be happy. What is happiness in terms of Adlerian principles? So happiness is the feeling of contribution coupled with the freedom from want of recognition by others. It is not accompanied by the want of recognition, because a lot of times people want to contribute and they want to be recognized. So happiness is both contribution and freedom from what people will think about those contributions, in the sense that whether you get a recognition for your contribution or you don't get a recognition for your contribution, the subjective feeling of contribution to the society is a driver for happiness, for intrinsic happiness. I'm not talking about the ones that are derived from the word approving or validating whatever contributions we are making. So yes, that is happiness. I'll give an example of what I understand this to be. For instance, if I am giving out money and this person gives me a very big smile, and I'm like, I made someone smile today, I'm very happy, and I give out money, I don't get the positive feedback, do I then become sad? So yeah, happiness for him is having our life task separated. Remember what we said about our life task being to contribute to others. Yeah, our compass being that whatever action we are doing is contributing to others. And when we are doing our life task, it doesn't matter whether other people's life task is validating what we are doing. We are happy. So basically, that's what happiness in Adlerian psychology entails. And to be free of want or need of recognition is actually a game changer, because then you are truly doing what you want to do, not because you want to be recognized. You aren't doing it, or you aren't doing even what you do not want to do because you want that validation from the society. And I think one cause of unhappiness is the fact that we tie our happiness to recognition by others. For instance, you believe that some arbitrary, nameless, faceless people are monitoring you and they have this expectation of you. And if you do this, they're going to say, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Yes, I know for celebrities it can be like that, but I tend to admire celebrities that live their life irrespective of what you say about them. But I think that we all try to, fit into a particular narrative, and that in itself is leaning towards want or need for recognition, which Adlerian principles say that is a recipe for the opposite of happiness. Another recipe for happiness is acceptance of who we are, acceptance of who we have been created to be, acceptance of our face, acceptance of our body, acceptance of our race, our color. These key acceptances can actually help us to now know what we are going to do with what we have. But clamoring or trying to be who you are not and who you cannot be is a recipe for long-term unhappiness, because you can never change the color of your skin. You can try, but you're not going to be happier because this is not who you are. You cannot change the race that you are from. You can try, but even if you get the citizenship in another country, for instance, you might not still be perceived if you don't have the same color of skin. Just accept that this is who you are. This is what the creator of the universe has designed it to be. And if you believe that the creator of the universe is an intelligent being, why don't you trust and entrust whatever actions, whatever thing you're doing to him? So yeah, I think this is a very key thing in being happy, because a lot of times we do not accept who we have been created to be. I'm not talking about some of the bad habits that we have created for ourselves and then we are saying that this is who we are, or some of the personalities that have consolidated in our person because of trauma. I'm not talking about those ones. I'm talking about some of the features that are God-given, some of the characteristics that we cannot do anything about. Remember that the whole book of Adlerian Principles is about focusing on your life task. And focusing on your life task is now about changing what he has made. When I mean he, I mean the great designer has made. Accepting who you are is a step in the right direction to happiness. And finally, yes, I love this one. The final one is having a happy perspective of the world, giving the world a happy perspective where everyone is our comrade and believing in the best of humans. The world is really a subjective place. Like a chameleon, it changes to suit our thoughts of it. Yes. How do you see a glass that is half full? Okay, do you see it as half empty or half full? That is what this point is trying to say. So if you see the world as a place that is filled with bad people, the world is going to be a bad place for you. But if you acknowledge that the world is a place that we have good people, but that doesn't mean that we do not have bad people. Remember, these are two different things. We could have 50-50 of bad people and 50% of good people. But say the world as a bad place with some good people, it's going to be different. When you say the world is actually a good place with some bad people, the perspective just changes. So it's more like having an optimistic view about people, believing in the good in people, believing that people are good intrinsically, believing that people are your comrades, not living a life of suspicion of everyone. When someone does something, you're wondering, what does this person want in return? They might want something in return, but just believe the best of people. Eventually, I'm not saying you're not going to be disappointed a few times, but that's constant belief in people. Imagine and in this book, he gave an example. When you believe in someone and the person disappoints you the first time, and the person sees that you still believe in him, that you are like, oh no, I know that you didn't mean to disappoint me. I know that this is probably accidental. And you believe in this person disappointed. What do you think would happen the third time? Do you think that the person would want to disappoint you? Because the person has seen that you believe in the good in him or her. So the person do not want to disappoint you again. It's going to take a little bit of sacrifice to always believe in people, but it's a matter of necessity to maintain our social structure. Because if each and everyone is suspicious of the next person, then we're going to live in such a tense world where everybody walks in eggshell, where people are nice but not kind, where people are just working with masks and fascists that are not what they mean, where people are pretending. But if we tend to live in a world where even when people disappoint us, we still believe in them, we still forgive them, we see them as our comrade, it's going to help people around us to actually want to make up for the disappointment. This is where I come to the end of the Adlerian insight. But basically, to summarize what I've said, I would say that it was indeed a masterclass for how to be happy in the now. It focuses less on the past, unlike the Freudian Psychology, and pays no much focus to the future, believing that what matters is what we live today, is how we live today, and how do we live today in earnestness and very conscientious. Live the best life you can live at the moment. I would conclude by saying that the book tries to explain that the world is a subjective place where it can be simple for people that share that perspective and can be complex for people that dilute it with the now and the past. It all depends on the tint of glass you're viewing the world from. The Adlerian psychology advocates removing the colored glasses of complexity and perceiving the simple world we live in. And I hope you enjoyed my review of this book as I enjoyed reviewing it with you guys. I promise to be more consistent because consistency is the watchword of this channel. See you in my next video. Bye.